Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde here in Lagos, Nigeria. We begin with a warning from serving and retired Nigerian diplomats under the aegis of the Association of Foreign Relations Professionals of Nigeria that if Nigeria and the rest of Africa must be liberated economically, its power sector must be prioritized. It also insists that to avert neocolonialism, a public-private partnership approach must be adopted towards economic emancipation. Speaking in Abuja through its leadership, the body said its 7th yearly lectures, scheduled for Thursday, would explore the theme of economic liberation, a catalyst against neocolonialism in Africa. Describing electricity as crucial to driving industries, the body expresses worries that the Nigerian industrial sector is on the verge of collapse due to shutting down of several industries over power instability. It holds that it has now become more urgent than ever before for the country to focus attention on the power sector so that its citizens can seamlessly engage in agro and other industrial activities capable of boosting the economy. It adds that small and medium enterprises should be encouraged within the context of policy, fiscal arrangements, and the provision of incentives such as the ease of doing business. At the just concluded 38th African Union Summit, Ghanaian President John Mahama announced that this year, 2025, is the year of reparatory justice during a speech in Addis Ababa, marking a historic step in addressing the enduring impacts of colonialism, slavery, and systemic exploitation. President Mahama emphasizes the need for action beyond acknowledgement, stating the legacy of the transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, and apartheid has left deep scars on African societies. The AU has developed a policy brief and revised its roadmap to guide efforts towards reparatory justice, focusing on economic disparities, cultural reclamation, and global advocacy for African and diaspora communities. The initiative also aims to restore dignity, rights, and well-being to those affected by centuries of injustice. The declaration aligns with Agenda 2063, aiming for an integrated, peaceful, and prosperous Africa.
At the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the African Union in February 2024, our heads of state and government made a landmark decision to dedicate the year 2025 to the cause of reparatory justice. This decision underscores our collective commitment to addressing the historical injustices and their lingering consequences that have impacted generations of Africans and people of African descent. It aligns with our broader struggle for liberation, unity, and socio-economic empowerment as enshrined in Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, a vision for an integrated, peaceful, and prosperous continent. Your Excellencies, the transatlantic slave trade was one of the most heinous crimes against humanity, spanning about 400 years and forcibly displacing more than 12.5 million Africans. It is estimated that at least 2 million of our compatriots perished during the Middle Passage alone. The legacy of this brutal system, along with colonialism, apartheid, genocide, and new colonial exploitation, have left deep and enduring scars on the fabric of our societies. Today, the descendants of enslaved Africans continue to face economic disparities, social inequality, systemic discrimination, and racial prejudices. Addressing these challenges require more than just acknowledging them. It demands action.
Well, the 38th session of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia may have come and gone, but some of the decisions taken at the event continue to resonate. Participants at the event say there is an urgent need to activate Africa's regional value chains to drive economic growth and prosperity. Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Jumoke Oduwole, who was part of the federal government delegation, says Nigeria's commitment has been recognized and commended. Our State House correspondent Lanre Lasisi has the report.
It's a gathering of presidents, ministers, heads of international agencies, governors, and members of the African business community. It's the Africa Business Forum 2025, and the focus is on how to activate regional value chains for the economic growth and prosperity of the continent. The Director General of the World Trade Organization also challenges participants.
If you want to change and have us produce and consume here, we've got to be the change we want. You know, we have to stop buying things from elsewhere. We send 80% of our cotton outside. We can transform it here, and all of us can wear beautiful clothes. Even suits can be made. I'm challenging everyone. If we want to grow, we have to.
For the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Nigeria is on the right track.
The Secretary General, when he was speaking on the panel, charged ministers of trade to encourage their principles on the agriculture value chain, to make sure that agricultural products can move across the continent seamlessly. But you know, coming from yesterday, as Nigeria became co-digital trade champion, joining South Africa and Kenya, but really President Tinubu got a commendation, the only one, for leading on the digital value chain across Africa. So we're very excited about that.
The governor of Oyo State highlights the role of subnationals in this regard.
Yes, you can talk as you wish at the national level, but the implementation will still have to devolve to the subnational. So basically what I'm trying to preach here is to see subnationals as the enablers for what we're trying to do.
As the 38th African Union Summit draws to an end, government officials are emphasizing some of the key decisions taken by Nigeria.
It's very important for Nigeria in particular. The domestic reforms of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is taken to now more of an international stage. It's for all of us in Africa, and it's very important that not only are we thinking about issues of security or strife in Africa, we also think about economic development.
If you look at Darfur, Nigeria is one of the main drivers in the Peace and Security Council that has stood firm to say that the two sides have to be brought together, and Nigeria is already talking to both sides. With regards to Eastern Congo, there also Nigeria has played a very significant role.
There is a strong belief that the new leadership of the African Union and the African Union Commission will lead the necessary reforms for the development of the continent. From Addis Ababa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, joining us now for more discussions on all that happened at the African Union Summit is African Affairs Analyst Dr. Okwe Okwala, speaking to us virtually from Lagos. Hello, Dr. Okwala. Thank you for joining us on the program.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you, and good afternoon, viewers.
Good afternoon. Well, let's begin with agriculture discussions at the summit. It's no surprise that Africa is talking produce what you use, especially in light of new U.S. policies that's reducing aid to the continent. Can Africa really produce enough to sustain itself?
Well, as they say, talk is cheap. But a slogan like that can be a motivation. It can convey resolve and determination to do things differently and to achieve great things. And indeed, Africa has the potential to produce even more than they use. We have the human capital, we have the fertile land, we have industrial people, we have young people. However, beyond slogan, we need to move to rolling our sleeves and doing the work and paying the price, both leaders and followers alike. There is nothing that is lacking. Everything that is required for progress and development is in Africa. However, there are the two biggest enemies of development are conflict and corruption. Conflict and corruption. If African leaders can work to minimize or reduce corruption and eliminate conflicts, there is nothing. Africa has the capacity to even overtake other continents. However, until we tackle these major issues, conflicts and corruption, it may be difficult for Africa to produce all they use.
Well, the continent has also been touted as having the richest soil, but many a times our export products are rejected as substandard, considering that the West produces more of GMO crops while Africa's produce is organic. Why do you think this is so?
Well, I think the truth is that the standards required in Europe or US may be different from what we do currently. However, I mean, Africans don't deserve less than Europeans or the Americans. But it does not necessarily mean that what they do is the best for us. The most important thing for us in Africa is not even exporting to Europe and America. As good as that may be, if we can explore intra-African trade, which currently is just at 12%, if we can trade within Africa, I think we can. We achieve sufficiency and sustainability. Anyway, we can also take it further to go to Europe and to go to America. But when we want to go, we have to teach our people. I mean, these are the quality, these are the standards required for your products to be successful in European market, to be successful in American market, to be successful in Asian market. But let us even within Africa explore trading more within Africa. Currently, it is about 12%. Let us target moving into at least 50%. That within Africans trade within 50% of African trade is within Africa. That we make sure that there will to be created, jobs will be created, and there will be prosperity for many.
All right. When you were, answering my first question, you mentioned conflict and corruption. Talking about conflict in itself, that borders on security, and it's often said for a country to make progress, there must be security. Now, the continent is not a model of this for now. How do you now interpret this in light of the recent comments made by U.S. Senator Charles Perry of Texas that, aid from the U.S. was being used to fund terrorism?
Well, I don't know how much I can take that to heart. Of course, the congressman is a known conspiracy theorist. However, it's not beyond some acting as some players in international to sponsor terrorism or to sponsor conflicts within countries. However, it speaks to the capacity of our leaders to even spot this. I mean, of course, you know that Russia is constantly trying to sponsor conflicts within America, and America is equally planning to doing so. Of course, but their capacity to stop some of these things, to see them, to interpret them, and to take action against them. We cannot keep blaming the West or other people for problems that exist in our home, because the capacity to man our home is part of what makes us leaders. African leaders should be able to, yes, we should relate with others as equals, because when we collect aids and then we depend on aids, sometimes we may not be able to speak up when certain things happen that is not in our interest. So I think we should, it's time that African leaders should lead on behalf of the people. What is happening now is most African leaders are stooges of the Western and the Eastern or foreign powers generally. So if we African leaders can be patriotic enough to lead on behalf of the people, and if possible, make sacrifices and leave the office if you cannot deliver anymore. What is happening is that most of the leaders of Africa need validation from Western powers, needs Western powers to sustain in the power even when they are not popular among their people. And therefore, they can take every nonsense. But when we lead on behalf of the people and in the interest of the people, then we can say no to what we don't want. And what we need, we can relate as equals in the international arena.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Dr. Okwe Okwala, African Affairs Analyst. Thank you for your time on the program.
It's always my pleasure.
The World Trade Organization General Council has approved the appointment of Ambassador Adamu Mohammed Abdulhamid of Nigeria as the chairperson of the Committee of Trade and Services Special Session with effect from February 2025. Prior to this appointment, Ambassador Abdulhamid held various positions in the WTO, such as the chairpersons of Trade Facilitation Committee, Council for Trade in Goods, Trade Policy Review Body, in addition to his key national position as the ambassador of Nigeria to the WTO. The present administration of Nigeria in general and the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment under the Minister, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, has commended this appointment. Leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum in Nigeria, PANDEF, Edwin Clark, has died at the age of 97. A statement signed by Professor C.C. Clark on behalf of the family says Chief Clark died on Monday, 17th of February. The former Federal Commissioner for Information was a prominent figure in Nigerian politics and an advocate for the rights of the Niger Delta, a lawyer, administrator, nationalist, and freedom fighter. He served as Commissioner for Education in the Midwestern region from 1968 to 1971 and later as Commissioner for Finance and Establishment in the defunct Bendel State between 1972 and 1975. At the federal level, he was appointed Commissioner for Information in 1975 and subsequently became a senator from 1979 to 1983. He was also the leader of the South-South People's Assembly and the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum. Chief Clark's death comes 4 days after another elder statesman, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, passed away. The federal government of Nigeria has underscored the need for residents to own a garden in their homes to grow their food instead of purchasing processed food. This formed the crux of the stakeholders' engagement in Abuja on the Nutrition 774 initiative designed to boost the nation's food security and also to promote nutrition. Speaking at the event, the Special Assistant to the President on Public Health and Focal Person for Nutrition at the Office of the Vice President, Uju Rochas Anwuka, said the government is also aiming to empower women with seedlings and livestock.
This is a direct impact intervention. It's not just about policy or making papers or, creating documents that will sit in the shelf. We're talking about actively getting down to the grassroots. So the women, where are they? Putting them in clusters, empowering them with seedlings, empowering them with livestock that is not just for consumption, but they can actually grow to be able to provide for their families and by extension income generation revenue for them as well. But what also sits special to this program is that we're incentivizing local government and states and MDAs, of course, horizontally that are doing well, recognizing them national recognition and also incentivizing them with financing so that they can do more nutrition. So imagine where you go into a community and the women are, well enabled to provide actual food for their children. I mean, you can't go better than that. So it's hands-on, impactful project for the country.
In Togo, the Union for the Republic, and that's the party led by President Faure Singbe, has garnered 34 out of 41 seats in a recent election aimed at transitioning to a parliamentary system of government. The Electoral Commission announced the results following a vote that marked the final phase of a controversial constitutional reform that has been criticized by the opposition. The establishment of the Senate is the final reform before the new constitution is implemented. President Singbe, who succeeded his father in 2005 and has been in power since, enacted the constitution in May. It abolishes the election of the head of state by universal suffrage and establishes a parliamentary system. The President of the Republic will hold a purely ceremonial role, while a Prime Minister, who must be the leader of the majority party in the National Assembly, will wield the actual power. President Yasingbe, whose party, the Union for Republic, won a significant victory in the April legislative elections, securing 108 out of 113 seats, is expected to be appointed Prime Minister once the Senate is established. Now, France is due to hand over its only military base in Côte d'Ivoire on Thursday in an official ceremony to be attended by French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu. The Port Boué military camp, officially the 43rd Bima Marine Infantry Battalion's camp, located near the former capital of Abidjan, will be renamed after the Ivorian Army's first Chief of Staff, Thomas Daquin Ouattara. According to its defense minister, the West African country will continue to cooperate with France in a military capacity. France has now been kicked out of more than 70% of African countries where it had a troop presence since ending its colonial rule. Over in Sudan, the humanitarian situation remains dire. Addressing the press, spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, Stéphane Dujarric, expressed his concern for civilians caught up in the conflict in and around the Zamzam displacement camp in El Fasher. According to him, following the escalation of hostilities in Zamzam over the past week, about 5,500 people have now been displaced and are seeking safety and shelter in Shamal Jabal locality, and that's in central Darfur. He's also concerned about blocked aid routes.
In Sudan, which remains extremely worrying. We are especially deeply concerned about the impact of violence on civilians in and around Zamzam displacement camp in Al Fasher, the capital of North Darfur. Following the escalation of hostilities in Zamzam over the past week, about 5,500 people were displaced and sought safety and shelter in Shamal Jabal Mara locality in central Darfur. There were also reports of others seeking to leave the area being prevented from doing so due to the intensity of the fighting and key exit routes being blocked. As you recall, Zamzam is one of the areas in Sudan where we have seen famine. This brings the total number of newly displaced people in Shamal Jabal Mara to more than 120,000, as reported by our colleagues at the International Organization for Migration. Aid agencies have provided food assistance for about 93,000 of them, and some 53,000 people have received emergency shelter and other supplies.
In neighboring South Sudan, following armed clashes between livestock owners and farmers in eastern Equatoria, high-level stakeholders met in Juba, the capital, to discuss ways to prevent cattle-related conflict from impacting communities. The forum brought together key political actors from national, state and county levels, community leaders and civil society representatives. Speakers challenged the nation's leaders to pursue greater cooperation and a united approach to bring a halt to repeated cycles of cattle raids and revenge attacks.
We are gathered here not just as leaders, but as custodians of peace, security, and stability for our people. We meet at a time when our hearts are heavy with tragic events that have unfolded in eastern Equatoria and central Equatorial State. The senseless violence that has led to the displacement of thousands, the destructions of villages, and the loss of innocent lives serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need for lasting solution.
And finally, on the program, Libya will be hosting the 2026 African-Turkish Summit. Now, this decision was announced at the 38th Summit of the African Union that held in Addis Ababa. According to Libya's Presidential Council, the hosting represents renewed international recognition of Libya's potential and its pivotal role in enhancing dialogue and strategic cooperation between Africa and key countries. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olayinde.